Okay. This is the Medicolegal book. Those who have this book with them as of now, they can refer this book when I'm taking the class. It is much easier. So the ethics chapter, that is on page number 7. So in brief, there is a small line of demarcation between what is the difference between ethics and law. Okay, so when we talk about law, these are the guidelines and statements that one should abide, and there is an authority like local court, state level court, high court, supreme court. These authorities are there to keep a check, okay, on who is not abiding the statements, rules, guidelines and all. Ethics is more or less like knowing what is wrong and knowing what is right. Your conscience should know what is right conduct and what is wrong conduct. Okay, if you have a moral values, okay, usually the moral values will form the basis of ethics. Okay, if at all you do something wrong, then the legal bodies will come into play. Okay, otherwise it is based on the individual who is performing certain action to conscientiously know what is right and what is wrong, and based on that they have to perform certain actions. 24 hours you will not have a legal body looking upon you if you're ethically performing your duties or not. Okay, but when it comes to law, okay, 24/7 there is authority looking over the functioning of the legalities legislature in a country. Okay, that is the difference between ethics and law. Okay, so when it comes to medical ethics, it means the code of conduct accepted voluntarily by the medical professionals. Okay, what all medical ethics are there, all the guidelines and principles, voluntarily all the doctors have to accept that and put those guidelines into their practice. Okay, so there are basically 4 main pillars of medical ethics. First is the pillar of beneficence, that is whatever act you do for your patients and in service what you do, okay, it should benefit the receiver. Okay, that is the first pillar. The second pillar is the pillar of non-maleficence, that is cause no harm, intentionally purposefully do not cause any harm. Okay, so that is non-maleficence. Then autonomy, respect your patient's decision making power in his or her own treatment. Okay, the patients do have their autonomy to continue with the treatment or to resist the treatment, and that decision has to be respected. And then there is a pillar of justice. Okay, your what your medical act should be justifiable. It comes under the legal boundary of the nation where you are practicing. Okay, then you have 4 rational approaches. These all 4 pillars and 4 rational approaches, it is there on the same page number 7. Okay, deontology means for example, when you are in a moral conflict to perform certain action. Okay, when a doctor is in a moral conflict, what to do, what not to do. Okay, what he or she has to do is see in past which physicians have faced the same situation and what kind of decision they took. Okay, so based on the past references, okay, the past references of a same or similar moral conflict, what the doctors have took decision, based on that past experiences you have to take decision. That is deontology. Okay, consequentialism, that means whatever actions you do, okay, to save your patient or to give him the best treatment possible, you should know the good and the bad consequences of each and every action. Okay, blindly you can't take any step. Each and every action which you take in your medical practice should be evidence based, and the practitioner should know the consequences of his action. Okay, then you have principalism, that is ethical principles given by the international bodies, national bodies, state bodies, etc. There is a whole lot of international authorities and bodies which we will discuss now. Okay, they have stated certain principles in their field of practices that has to be accepted. And then you have virtual ethics. Okay, for example, the general ethics which come under duties of the doctors. Okay, duties of the doctor to the patient, to the society. to their colleagues, okay, those will come under the virtual action ethics, that is same throughout the world. Then you have history of medical ethics. So in India, we have the Charak Samhita. Okay, it was constituted around 2000 years ago when we had the ancient universities in India like Takshila, okay, etc. So there, this Charak Samhita used to be an oath. It used to be a sacred ceremony when a student is incorporated into the medical field. There was a vast sacred ceremony in which they had to take the Charak Samhita oath. It's a long prayer, but a small paragraph from that prayer has been mentioned in the textbook. You can just read through that. No need to by heart this oath, okay? Just understand which of these, what is the history and how ancient are the medical ethics. It is not a very new concept, okay? It has been there from the time we are practicing ancient as well as modern medicine, okay? Then the mostly widely used oath in medical practice is the Hippocratic oath. Okay, so a Hippocratic oath was made around 400 BCE. Okay, and Hippocrates is considered the father of modern medicine. He was a Greek physician, and he is considered as the father of Western medicine. Okay, around 460 to 377 BC, that is around 400 BC, that era, he was providing his services as a physician, Greek physician, in that era, and he had constituted this Hippocratic oath, that is in the Greek language, but by 1500s, German medieval scholars rediscovered this oath, which was usually first in these eras. All these oaths were encrypted on stone. Okay, then that was rediscovered, and then it was translated to English and other languages by 1700s, and by 1948, soon after the World War, it was adopted by the World Medical Association, and all the graduates of medical faculty who are graduating from the medical field, they have to take this Hippocrates oath. Okay, and by 1964, this oath was rewritten. Okay, all the modern concepts were also added onto this oath, so it was rewritten in 1964 by Louis Lizania, and which has been adopted by the many medical schools. So usually the Hippocratic oath which you do take these days from the medical school when you graduate from a medical school, that is the one which was rewritten, okay, not the original one. Then you have the World Medical Association, and the main thing which you have to remember, take from the World Medical Association, is the Declaration of Helsinki, which is associated with the medical researches which is being carried out. Okay, so when, if you remember, during the Second World War which ended in 1945, okay, the atrocities committed by the Nazi German soldiers as well as the Nazi German physicians, okay, that came into light. Okay, what all atrocities and what kind of inhumane human researches they used to do on their Jewish prisoners and all. Okay, so you can read about that in online, and there are so many movies and documentaries on this. You can, if you are interested, you can check that. Okay, so when these atrocities came to light, when the war ended in 1945 April, when everything came into light, what the Nazis had actually done, okay, in their concentration camps and everything, what when it came to light, that's when the world nations decided that they have to revise the ethics in human research, as well as the medical practice ethics has to be revised. So that's when the World Medical Association came into play, and from 1947 itself it is working. Okay, they had few tasks at their hand. The first task was to see that the gross violation which was committed by the Nazi Germany, it should not be repeated in the future. Okay, so they updated the Hippocratic oath. See here, the 1947 WMA, World Medical Association, came into existence, and the first task which they did was they adopted the Hippocratic oath, as well as they updated the Hippocratic oath so that it will suit all the nations. Okay, then they made sure that there is an international code of medical ethics which has to be followed uniformly by all the physicians, all the medical practitioners, irrespective of their field of practice, irrespective of their nationality, race, etc. International medical code of ethics has to be practiced by all the graduates from the medical school. Okay, so that was the second task. And the third task was the Declaration of Helsinki, which oversees the entire guidelines and principles which has to be carried out when you are doing a medical research. So these were the three tasks which the World Medical Association did. Then you have Declaration of Geneva. In this act also, in 1968, in Declaration of Geneva, there are principles and the oath which, as soon as you graduate from a medical school, you become a medical professional. There are certain oath which you have to take under the Declaration of Geneva before you start practicing. So that comes under the Declaration of Geneva. So International Code of Medical Ethics, the World Medical Association adopted this. This was a second task, as I had told earlier. So they adopted the International Code of Medical Ethics based on modern restatement of the Hippocratic Oath, that is the Geneva Declaration. The code applies both in peace and war. What the oath which you take, the Hippocratic Oath which you take, even if a country is at peace or even if it is going in war, even if you're treating war prisoners, okay, prisoners of war, okay, in that case also you have to follow the Hippocratic Oath. It codifies the duties of physician in general, duties to patients as well as colleagues. So duties of doctors in general, what is the duties of the doctors? It is listed down in few points. Okay, there are more points to this, but only 4 to 5 points have been listed down. So a doctor should not be doing self-advertisement. Okay, advertising their own services, that should not be done by the doctor. Okay, and they should not have a collaboration with any pharmaceutical agencies or any medical or surgical treatment agencies, and they should not advertise for these agencies also. Then they should not receive any money apart from the fees which they should be receiving from their service. Apart from the fees, they should not receive extra bonus or extra money or gifts from any external sources, especially these agencies which are associated with pharmaceutical and other allied health companies. Okay, and they should act in advice which should when a human being is in a weakened state emotionally or physically, they should advise them to their advice should aim at alleviating the sufferance of the humans whom they are treating. And by law, a doctor is required to testify in front of a court when he or she is called upon. Okay, in that case, you can break the code of confidentiality. Otherwise, you have to uphold the code of confidentiality, except for in case when there is a legal proceeding going on. Then you have duties of doctors to the sick, to the patient. The first duty is to cause no harm. They have to preserve the human life at all costs. They should be completely loyal to their patients, and all the resources of their knowledge, scientific knowledge which they have to use all the resources of their scientific knowledge to treat the sick. They should be able to give absolute secrecy and confidentiality to their patients. And if that's if they come across a patient, if they want to help a patient who is beyond their capacity, who they have to work in a field beyond their capacity, in that case they have to refer the patient to another consultants, and they have to seek help from other or help or assistance from other doctors. So these are the basic duties. Then you have duties of doctors to each other, to the colleagues, how they have to behave. Okay, how they want others to behave to themselves, the same way they have to behave with their colleagues. Okay, it's a give and take kind of pattern. They should not entice the patient from their colleagues. They should not steal their patients from their colleagues, and they have to observe the principles of Declaration of Geneva. In Declaration of Geneva, they have that their all the medical professionals working under the Declaration of Geneva should be like brothers to each other. Okay, should assist each other when in need. So according to that, they have to perform their duties. Then coming to Declaration of Helsinki, so it is a set of ethical principles developed by the World Medical Association for medical community, especially when you are doing a human research which requires human experimentation. You have to follow the principles set by the Declaration of Helsinki. Then we have it follows the Nuremberg Code of 1947. So it is related to what they have found out about the Nuremberg Code came into light when they found out about the atrocities which was committed by the the Nazi Germany during World War II. So there was a Nuremberg Code, and based on this Nuremberg Code, they have made the principles for the Declaration of Helsinki. So it is regarded as a cornerstone document for all the human research ethics. And there is also an international ethical committee who oversees if these principles are followed by the researchers or not. And it is included with the clinical trial protocol, especially when you are doing a clinical research. This has to be all the principles by Declaration of Helsinki should be kept in mind. So these are the basic principles under the Declaration of Helsinki. So it is there from page number 11 to 12. Okay, all the important points which is discussed in this page number has been shortlisted here. If you can take a screenshot of this, it is more than enough to understand this. So you can take a screenshot of this particular slide to understand the basic principles of the Declaration of Helsinki. So conform to accepted scientific principles. What all evidence-based knowledge you have to follow that first of all. Only if you have exhausted the evidence-based knowledge, then only go for some innovative ideas in treatment. Design formulated in experimental protocol, it is reviewed by the International Ethical Committee. Whatever protocols you are going to use in your research, what kind of methods of data collection, etc. Okay, what is the tool which you are using in the research, etc. All will be reviewed by the International Ethical Committee before you start your research. This clinical research should be conducted only by qualified and trained persons. And importance in proportion of inherent risk is identified. The pros and cons is identified. If you have lot of cons, if you carry on this research, you have a lot of cons to it. It is usually avoided. But when the pros outweigh the cons, obviously it is carried out. The research is carried out. So that is how you see the proportion of inherent risk. If it is too risky, usually such researches are avoided. Risky in the sense risk to human life and health. So assessment of risk versus benefits has to be done. Safeguard the subject's integrity, privacy, consent is taken for that. Abstain unless hazards are predictable. If you know that some hazards are going to take place when you are doing this researches, okay, when you can predict certain hazards taking place while researches are being carried out, at that time you have to abstain from continuing the research. But if you are not aware of the upcoming hazards, you can't predict the upcoming hazards, you can carry out the research. Preserve accuracy when publishing. When you are publishing the results of your research, do not tweak it at the end. Whatever results you got as it is, it should be published. Do not tamper with your results. Adequately inform or right to withdraw should be given to the patient. The human subject who has consented for a experimental research, at any point of the time they can withdraw from the research. And also all the pros and cons, the health benefits, the risk, everything should be stated to the human subjects before they enroll themselves for this research. obtain true informed consent in writing. That goes without saying. No research should be conducted without consent. Reliance on legal guardian. If the human subjects in your research are minors, as well as if your subjects are mentally challenged, in that case, you have to rely on their legal guardian to give consent. State compliance with declaration. For example, in India, each and every state where a human research is going on, the state has to comply with the Declaration of Helsinki. So when it comes to clinical research, what all guidelines you have to follow here is a doctor is free to use any innovative new diagnostic techniques, etc., only in the hope of saving a life or re-establishing the health of their patient. In that case, they are free to use a new diagnostic and innovative tool when they're sure that using this, it is going to help their patient. Okay. Unnecessary discomfort should not be given to the patient. If the patient refuses to participate in a study, it should not affect the doctor-patient relationship in clinical research. So doctors can combine medical research along with professional care. The objective is to attain new knowledge through medical research. At the same time, they are following all the duties they have towards their patients. No duties towards their patients should be compromised just for the sake of clinical research. That has to be kept in mind. Now, for non-clinical and biomedical research, for example, when Fitbit was introduced in the market, okay, if you know what is Fitbit watches and all, the watches which can track your blood pressure, pulse, respiratory rate, etc., how much you are walking steps, etc., your daily activity, how many calories you have burnt, okay, that kind of watches are available in the market. So that's a product of a non-clinical biomedical research. Okay, it's not associated with certain ailments. Okay, it's associated with healthy people. Okay, when you are recruiting subjects for this non-clinical biomedical research, they should be healthy. They should not be allied with any health disorders or any condition. Okay, so the outcome of this non-clinical biomedical research is usually done on healthy individuals, how they respond to certain products or protocols. Based on that, new biomedical products are released in the market. So even in this, while conducting non-clinical biomedical research, a healthy person's health is of utmost importance. You should not deprive their health status just for the sake of biomedical research. Professional secrecy has to be maintained. What all informations your patients or subjects have given you for this research, okay, that has to be kept confidential. Confidentiality of medical records. All the medical records should be kept confidential, and when there is a suspicion of negligence, when a police or a legal body suspects that this medical research is not undertaken through ethical committee, or ethical guidelines are not followed in this particular medical research, legal bodies, the law enforcement has the right to seize all the medical records in that case. Okay, so the law enforcement and the legal authorities has the right to seize the medical records if they doubt that ethically our research is not being conducted. There is a privileged communication, that is the physician should keep all the communication confidential, but in some cases privileged communication may be required in when you have to disclose the information to the court, etc. Okay, so for example, there are two kinds of privileged communication. One is absolute privilege, means in a particular case when the court has summoned a doctor to come to the court, okay, in that in respect to the medical condition, in that case the doctor can give out the information which was given to him in confidentiality by the patient, that information can be given out in the presence of a judge in a court. Okay, so that is one absolute privilege. Then you have qualified privilege, in that notification of birth, deaths, notification of occupational diseases. Okay, if you know a bus driver who is color blind, that has to be reported. Okay, so this will come under the qualified privilege. Okay, that by law, the doctors cannot hide that. Okay, they come across a patient who is suffering from silicosis. Okay, silicosis is a occupational hazard disease. Okay, so even if that is a confidentiality between the doctor and the patient. Okay, the doctor and the patient knows that silicosis is occupational disease, and through a patient's way of profession, the patient has got this. Okay, all the details will be confidential between them, what communication they had, but the doctor has a legal duty to notify the occupational OSHA board and inform them that this patient has silicosis. The patient has to be registered under the OSHA of having silicosis. So that is a qualified privilege. Ethics of relations with fellow colleagues. So you have to treat your colleagues as your brothers. Do not criticize your colleagues in presence of other patients. Okay, talk to your colleagues directly rather than passing the information through the patient, and never try to steal the patients from your colleagues. And as soon as the consultation is over, if you are a consultant to a case, as soon as the consultation is over, send back the patient to the doctor who has referred him or her. And do not try to split the fees. Okay, whatever fees the patient is giving to their physician, if you're a consultant, doesn't mean that you can have half of the fees. Ethical challenges in healthcare. So in clinical practice, usually the ethical issues related here is the excessive use of technology in healthcare. Okay, so excessive use of technology in professional education, etc. And a new challenge which you are facing nowadays are some paraprofessional health workers are allowed to conduct medical abortions. Okay, that kind of law is going to come up. But the another challenge with this clinical practice is, if you are allowing the access of certain medical actions to paramedicals, okay, what will be the uh, how it will be safe and how it will be scientific? Are they skilled enough to conduct such to carry out such medical actions? Okay, so that is an ethical challenge which we are facing here. There are n number of other challenges. This is just an example. When new technologies are coming up, okay, new things are, new biotechnological and biomedical products are being introduced in the market. How skilled is a doctor or a medical practitioner to use it? Okay, not all the medical practitioners are equally skilled in using high tech products and everything. Okay, some do refer their muscle power, like muscle memory, to do, and they refer their the skills of their hand, the dexterity of their hands, etc., to perform a procedure. Some doctors may require the aid of high tech medical products to require to perform a procedure. So there is a gray area which has to be indulged here to understand what is ethical and what is not ethical, who is a skilled physician to use uh, this medical equipment and who is not. Okay, so these are the ethical challenges which we are facing in clinical practice. In research, again, there is a very fine line between treatment and care and research, because the people who are trying to be the subjects to a research, what is the motivation of their participation, that has to be researched. Usually nobody goes behind that. They got a human subject, they have got the consent, that is enough, they start their research work. But what is the motivation of that human participant is not is not divulged in much. Okay, so that is a gray area here. And you have other research related issues also. There are a lot of lawsuits which is coming up just because of um, inadequate practice during research, human research and human experimentation, etc. So these lawsuits differ from each other. Okay, the code of conduct by the physician, how the adverse effect of the medications or product used on a human subject, etc. Okay, so there are different areas from where issues can rise up, especially in clinical research. Then public health policy. Not all public health policies are well adapted by all medical practitioners, okay, based on various factors. That there may be some friction between the ruling government as well as the practicing doctors. Recently we are seeing so many strikes going on around India, okay, but how doctors are striking against certain policies of the ruling government, etc. Okay, so that is an issue. For example, uh, in the national now we do not have the medical counseling of Council of India. I guess you know that since 25th September 2020, National Medical Commission has overtook the Medical Council of India. Medical Council of India is dissolved. Okay, so NMC has certain policies in their act in which they allow the practice of allopathy for the Irish doctors. Okay, so that was a serious concern, and there was a lot of strike and everything going on. So that's an example here. The challenges in healthcare just because of some public health policies, etc. Present day regulatory vacuum. There is a reason why Medical Council of India was dissolved. Okay, because it was not functioning how it was supposed to function. Okay, or their key roles were questionable. Okay, the policymakers, the stakeholders in this act were questionable. Okay, there was a lot of corruption cases also under their belt, etc. So that was one of the issue why we had to dissolve the Medical Council of India, and the National Medical Commission is now working in its place, carrying on the same task of Medical Council of India. So that was the reason that there is a problem with regulation in when it comes to the medical department. Okay, there is a problem with when it comes to legal authority which has to overlook the medical profession in India. So there's a lot of problems in that area. So that is an ethical challenge in India. Now coming on to the next chapter, rights and duties. It's on page number 17. So the general duties of the patient, the doctor, maintain a good medical practice. How you can do it? The main aim of a doctor should be service to humanity. Continuously improve their medical knowledge, attend conferences, continuously improve their skills, learn about the new innovative things which have come into the medical practice, undergo continuous medical education programs, etc. Okay, whatever is an evidence based action, medical actions, use that instead of using under researched techniques and medications. So that is how that's few examples through which how a doctor can maintain a good medical practice. About medical records, depending upon the hospital's protocol, maintain the medical records. For example, in some hospitals, you have to maintain the inpatient record for 3 years, outpatient record for 1 year. Whatever is the hospital's policy, that you have to follow. If the patient's party or any authority has asked you to issue the medical record, they want to look into it within 72 hours. The medical record has to be issued or to the same. And whenever possible, wherever possible, computerization of the medical records should be done as soon as possible, because the times are changing and computerization is going on, is under construction in most of the private sector hospitals. Registration numbers, the doctors have to receive display their registration numbers given to them by state council or medical council, and they can also display the suffix in case of any extra diplomas which they have done. Okay, if they have done their MD program from any recognized medical degrees or universities, okay, they can display that in form of suffixes to after their name. As much as possible, they have to use the generic names of the drugs. Brand names of drugs should be avoided. They have to ensure quality assurance in delivery of their medical services. Safeguard their professional, for example, safeguard the professional, also expose unethical conduct. About that, you can read articles. Usually, the task of Medical Council of India entirely as the same is being carried out by NMC, but along with that, they have put some extra revisions. They have changed the counseling body members, etc. Okay, but the main thing which was noticeable was how the Ayush doctors can practice allopathy. That provision was given. So that was a reason for strike. There are few other tweaks there, here and there, but usually what all the role Medical Council of India had, the same is been carried out. For example, in terms of giving registration numbers, doing inspection for colleges, okay, doing inspection for MD, master's colleges as well as undergraduate colleges, okay, setting the syllabus for medical education in India. Those things are carried out by NMC now, along with few other tasks. So safeguard the profession and expose unethical conduct. For example, if you are aware that your colleague is treating a patient under the influence of alcohol or drug, okay, if a doctor is not sober and he is treating under the influence of any intoxicants, okay, so that is an unethical conduct. So if a doctor is aware that his colleague is having this unethical conduct, the doctor has the right to expose their colleague. Okay. Payment of services, it's not, they should not follow no cure, no payment. That tagline should not be followed. Okay. Whatever is their fees, it has to be informed to the patient before they start their treatment. Before the treatment commences, the patient should be aware of the fees and the charges applicable for this particular doctor. Okay. Then duties of the doctors to their patients, obligations to the sick. They are bound to treat each and every person asking for their services, and they should be ever ready to respond to the calls at any given time of the day. Okay. The physician advising a patient to seek services from another physician is acceptable. However, in case of any emergency, the physician has to treat the patient. Okay. And when they are treating the patient, a patient who is not under the range of their experience, they can obviously refer that patient to a consultant who is specialized in that particular area. Incapacity to practice, for example, a dentist is not allowed to make any prescription regarding the any dermatological prescriptions, etc. Okay, so that's an example. When you are not specialized in a particular field of medicine, you are not allowed to practice it. Secrecy of patient's information, in brief, that is confidentiality. Not much to explain there. It has to be kept until and unless a privileged communication is asked for. Explaining the prognosis, do not exaggerate or minimize the gravity of the patient's condition. What is the current condition of the patient, at what stage they are, it has to be explained. After treatment, how better they could be. Okay, what will be the risk associated with the treatment, what are the worst case scenarios, etc., has to be explained to them. Patient neglect, a physician is free to choose whom he or she will serve. Okay. And however, in case of emergency, they have to respond to all the patients who are seeking their advice. But otherwise, if they know a patient, they know that their doctor-patient relationship is questionable, in that case, the patient has the right to neglect a patient or transfer the case to another physician. Duties during consultation: avoid unnecessary consultation unless and until a doctor is doubtful of a condition or in difficult condition. The doctor has the right to ask for a second consultation, but otherwise unnecessary consultations should be avoided. Observe punctuality. Should be punctual on the basis of the time and services. Informing the patient about the differences in opinion which they have. The patient may want a certain kind of treatment. The doctor doesn't want to give that kind of treatment because it may be too risky. In that case, the doctor should be able to communicate that to the patient that in my opinion, I don't think so. This should be good because it will put your life at risk. That way, the patient, the doctor should be very open with the patient, and the patient as well as the relatives should have the chance to seek advice somewhere else if they are not happy with a certain physician. Treatment after consultation. The attending physician may prescribe some medication at the time, but the consultant physician can only prescribe only in case of emergency. Otherwise, consulting physician should not prescribe medication, especially when the attending physician is available. On the charges, the physician should clearly display the charges on a board or on their receipt, or state their charges before they start their treatment. Responsibilities of the doctors towards each other. Dependence of physicians on each other. The doctor should consider it as a pleasure to to consult each other on certain cases, to include each other's scientific knowledge and their resources to treat certain cases. It should be a matter of pleasure for a doctor. It should not be something they have to be envious about. Conduct in consultation. There should be no insincerity, rivalry, or envy should not be the basis of how you conduct during a consultation. All these negative emotions should be kept aside, and collectively for the better health of the patient should be the only aim while an interspecialty consultation is going on. Consultant should not take charge of the case because the attending physician is the only one who will be completely responsible, will be the head of the team for a particular case. When a physician is referring a particular case to a consultant, the consultant cannot take the entire charge of the case. Even during consultation, the attending physician will be the will be the one who is leading the healthcare case. Appointment of substitute. In case of any emergency, if the physician has to take leave, the doctor can appoint a substitute, and this substitute should to do their best capacity. They should be able to discharge all the responsibility which the doctor on leave had towards this patient. That entire responsibility the substitute has to take. Visiting another physician's case, unless required or unless called upon, consultants cannot go and just without any reason, they cannot visit another physician's case, make comments on their treatment, etc. So that kind of behavior should be prohibited. Responsibilities of doctors towards public and paramedic. Physicians themselves are citizens. They should be aware about the public health policies and how it will affect them also. When a public health policy is released, they should not look at it as service providers, but they should also look at it as a service receivers, because they also may require some medical aid in their life. In that case, they have to think themselves as citizens, and from citizens' point of view, how a public health policy is going to affect them has to be seen, and that opinion has to be given. Public health, they should be able to enlighten the public regarding any quarantine regulations, etc., how to prevent an epidemic, pandemic, okay, etc. Such kind of health education should be given to the public for their sake. Pharmacists and nurses, the physicians should be aware of the limitation, about the limitation of their paramedical staff. Okay, how much the paramedical or the allied healthcare workers can give their services to a case, and in which area their services should not be called upon. That kind of limitations the doctor should be aware of. Some examples of unethical acts: advertising. Okay, a physician or a group of physicians cannot advertise just for the sake of soliciting the patients. That is considered unethical. Using rebates and commissions just by prescribing a certain brand of pharmaceutical medicines, and they may get some commission if it is coming out in light. That's considered unethical act, and it has a criminal liability to it. So to not indulge in such kind of commissions, or giving preference to certain brands because you may get a commission for that. Using secret remedies, the doctor should know the complete composition of whatever drug they are prescribing. If they do not know the composition of the drug which they are prescribing, it should not be prescribed. So such kind of secret remedies should not be used in the medical profession, especially the ones which are under researched or banned in a in certain countries. It should not be prescribed. Human right violations. Doctor themselves should not undertake any human right violation actions like torture or any other physical or mental trauma to their patients, or they should not be even party to such violations. Knowingly, if they know that human right violations are being carried out, they should not keep quiet. They should expose that actions to the public. Euthanasia, it's a very debatable topic. In some countries like Switzerland and all, euthanasia are legal, but in most of the other countries, it's very debatable. So removing the supportive equipment devices is different from euthanasia, but is under the same topic. Okay, so a single doctor cannot make a decision while removing life supporting devices. There should be a team, and all the team members should agree to removing of supportive devices. And this team usually consists of the doctor who is in charge of the patient, the chief medical officer of the hospital, the doctor nominated by the in charge of the hospital from the hospital staff. Any doctor can be nominated for that, and a person in charge from the Transplantation of Human Organ Act in India. You have the TOA Act. So a person in charge, representative from the TOA Act, can also be present while this is going on, because if at all it's a brain dead patient and you are removing the supportive devices, some organs can be harvested for donation. So in that case, if the patient is an organ donor, or the family members have consented for the organ donation, in that case, a representative from the TOA Act can be present. Then you have the code of conduct. The medical doctor practitioner should not accept any gifts, money or any special hospitality or special treatment from any pharmaceutical or allied healthcare industry. Because their name, if their name is associated with certain industry, pharmaceutical industry, or any allied healthcare industry, that is an unethical act, and should not carry out any research projects unless they are sure that the project has undergone the clearance from ethical committee. It fulfills the legal requirements, and who is funding the research. That is main. Who is the sponsor of the research? and unnecessarily animal experimentation. All these important criteria which comes under the medical ethical committee of research that has to be seen through. Okay, if there are any violations to it, this research can be stopped at any time from the ethical committee. Then you have certain examples from misconduct and violations. So if a doctor is violating any regulations which we have discussed so far, that comes under criminal liability, and he or she may be arrested under that. Adultery or improper conduct, for example, can anyone give an example for that? Adultery or improper conduct from your knowledge or experience. What could undergo as adultery or improper conduct? Yeah, adulterated drugs or counterfeit ones, that will come under use of secret remedies and all. For example, cases under battery. Okay, uh, you know what is the meaning of battery? Like you are touching or causing an assault on someone. Okay, perpetuated an assault on someone without their permission. Okay, uh, taught battery. Okay, so those things are considered as improper contact. Okay, touching the patient without their permission. Okay, before you initiate any medical treatment or any medical procedure, you do take a verbal consent from the patient. You explain them, okay, I am going to do this and that. Okay, that has to be each and every procedure. If the patient is conscious, each and every procedure should be explained to the patient, whatever you are going to do. Okay, that has to be explained to the patient. Without explaining directly, if you jump into touching the patient without their permission, those that will come under the adultery or improper conduct. There is a demarcation of that. If the patient is violent or mentally challenged, in that case, uh, certain additional uh, yeah, those and all. So certain additional witnesses should be there for that. Okay, certain cases of sexual assault conducted by physicians will come under adultery and improper conduct. Even any sexual violence against their colleagues. Convicted by the court of law, any offenses which, if there is a violation of the medical ethics or basic medical ethics of the doctors, their duties are not performed properly, in that case, they can be convicted by the court of law. Sex determination test, as you know, in India, sex determination test is banned, especially to if it aids in female feticide and all, the physician will be convicted by the court of law. Signing professional certificates, etc. In that case, it is very tricky. So the doctors are called upon on time to time to give medical fitness certificate, other forms of certificate. Okay, notifications, reports, etc. In that case, in these cases, if there is certain malpractice, knowingly the doctor has hidden some facts and signed this certificate, the doctor can be considered liable for legal actions. Again, in research, if the guidelines given by the Indian Council of Medical Research in India, if it is not per se followed, okay, in that case, it comes under the violation of the ICMR guidelines and the doctor can be convicted. Then you have punishment and disciplinary action. Please read that. It is given by the Medical Council of India, but now it is dissoluted. So, what is the punishment and disciplinary action by the National Medical Commission? You can read on that online. Okay, so you will have a better understanding. Each act has their own. Each medical act has their own punishments, etc. That differs from act to act. Okay, so for that you can do, yeah, not just the 304A, but all the medical legal issues which we have discussed in the quality management. Okay, everything will come under this punishment and disciplinary action. Any doubts in this? This is a fairly introductory topic. Just you should know these are the things which has to be followed by each and every medical practitioner. Chapter 2 and chapter 3, we have covered 2 chapters. Chapter 4, legal hurdles in medical practice. Please read that on your own. Okay, if you have any doubts, please do let me know. Any doubts in this? I guess the topics are fairly very clear. If you read through the paragraphs, okay, for your self study, you will understand it much better. The dictation in the book is very easy. It is very easy to understand. Once you read it, that's more than enough. Just understand the concept. Don't by heart anything. If at all we come across any topic for which some technical details required to be remembered by you, I will inform you that prior itself. So you can mark that or note it down. Otherwise, if you are thorough with the concept which we have discussed so far, it is more than enough.